Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I've got another reel that Bobby has sent in. This is South Bend 870. He says it's got an internal problem. Well, I think the internal problem is related to this bail with a trip mechanism that's underneath it. And well, we're going to just try and figure this one out. We use these, I call these tuition reels. The whole idea behind these reels is to learn from them why the reel is failing, and just to kind of catalog that for, well, knowledge later in terms of how to make these reels work. And well, we'll see what we can do. This is a South Bend reel. It was South Bend Gladding. So at one point, South Bend was an independent company that ran into some financial difficulty. They were acquired by Gladding, which was a line manufacturer. Gladding ran them for a few years under their name, Gladding South Bend. And then Gladding ran into financial difficulty, and they sold it off, sold the South Bend brand off again. But this one was a reel that was made in Hong Kong, and that tells you about all you need to know about both companies. Neither one of them were direct manufacturers of reels. They had them manufactured by others. Sometimes they're called trade reels. A lot of the South Bend early reels were made by Shakespeare, and I believe there's others that were making them for South Bend as well. But what we're going to do here, as you saw, we just took the 3 screws out of the side plate here. That'll give us an idea of what's going on underneath. And well, there's quite a few things that we want to notice now. We notice first and foremost that the issue with this reel is not an issue with the internals. The internals here seem fine. They just aren't moving from a crank standpoint. So that says it's up top here. So let's go ahead and up top here and take this off. That looks like an American socket there, or 7/16 or something. We'll see what we can do to get that out. And while I'm doing that, I want to encourage you, if you have any questions, if you're wondering about the reel, how to kind of date the reel, maybe who made the reels, we kind of talked a little bit about that, Hong Kong. But overall, any questions you may have, if you leave them in the comment section, I will try to answer them for you. I just used a deep socket here to get this nut. We're going to take the rotor off here. This is kind of an interesting rotor. It has a double set here. We have the top end of this, which can come off. And then we have a little pin here, which is going to hold the balance of this, so you can pull this off. And we can move the axle shaft out of the way, and we can take the main gear out. So we're kind of just trying to figure out all kinds of things, but again, my experience here says it's not the bottom of the reel that Bobby was thinking about here. Just a quick cleanup on this. A little bit of a spray. And you'll notice I use a paper towel underneath. That paper towel underneath, well, keeps most of that dirt and debris off of my board, so I don't transfer it to the next project. One of the things we can say about these reels is that they're well made. They didn't lack in the parts, for sure. They are all in good condition. This one, well, this one is just got a lot of old grease and dirt and debris on there. Well, I happen to be familiar with this reel, but if you're not familiar with the reels, you should take pictures along the way. Those pictures will help you to establish an audit trail, if you will, when you took off the pieces and parts, how you took them off, the orientation of the parts, and well, it just helps you when it's time to put them all back together again. I'm just cleaning out the teeth now, just making sure that, you know, Bobby said that there's a chance that the issues here are internal. I'm not seeing it, but I for certain want to make sure that I put these back after I've examined them so that I know I'm not putting a broken piece back. I'm going to get the bottom end of this reel kind of off because the problem's not there. I'm going to grab this. I'm not sure if he included the handle in this box or not, but I think we're going to be able to get this running if that bail spring is okay. I think that's where the issue is. All right, greased up all the sections of the main gear, including that back stem. Make sure your anti-reverse dog is in the off position. You can bring that in and around. So the next issue that we had here was with this axle shaft. That goes in next. All you have to do on the axle shaft is light grease. It's going to come in from underneath like this. It's going to sit over the stud on the main gear, and it's going to lock into the carrier below. This is the pinion gear. We saw that's held in place by that U-clip. Let's clean that up a little bit. Again, check the teeth, make sure they're all clean. This would be another area where it would be possible that the reel was hanging up. They all look good. We've taken care of all the old greases, getting them out of the channel, so we'll put the grease onto this to get that out of play. And also this bushing here. Put some grease onto the bushing. This whole thing can come down over now. It's seated inside the reel here. And then there's just a little bit of dirt and debris up top here we'll clean out as well. Well, we said the piece that's holding all of this in is a U-clip. Sometimes those result in kind of a lot of play in the rotors. You want to find the slot up top, push that clip in to hold it, like that, and then we will find that when we do this later, when we put the nut back on for the rotor, that'll hold everything in. You won't be able to pull this assembly up because of that clip being in place there. All right, let's set that off to the side. I think where we've come to realize is that the issue is in this. So let's take a look at what's going on here. I'm going to remove the bail, and I don't have a small, I don't think I have a small enough. Maybe I do. It looks like it might be an 8mm. Let's have to find that. Let's see what we got. Yep, I think we got that. Actually, I think it's a 1/4 inch. I'm going to shut the piece off. We'll be back with the... Okay, I've been unsuccessful in trying to find that out, so I'm going to try and break this with pliers. I don't like using pliers on nuts. There we go. But sometimes in a sense of immediacy, we're going to do that. All right, the nut comes off. I should be able to remove the bail wire. Put that nut back on. Now I can remove this inner arm here. This is a good place to take the picture. You have a spring that's hooked to the back end of this trip arm and into the hook here. So I'm going to use a micro pliers for this. That through. Okay. Put that spring off. Notice that there's a long and a short side of it. The long side went behind here. Now we're going to pull that trip arm off. Again, we want to notice orientations here. And our trip lever comes off. Now we can take this bail arm off. And there should be a spring underneath here. If there is, yeah, there's a spring here. So I'm not sure what got jammed here. Spring goes into this little hole here. A little ferrule that goes next. Now you can notice that bail arm is way out of alignment. So this one was not tightened down. Now we bring it across here. We should have a nice fire. We do. Okay. All right. Now we want to bring that trip arm back. To do that, you want to bring this all the way around to this side. You got to work that underneath. And what I find is good is setting this up with the screw first, then the spring, okay, once I've tightened that down, I like to move this so that it's on the lip. This has a collapsible bail, so you don't need to set it all the way over here. You can just grab that little ear there. And now the part that usually gives me the most of an issue, I want to put this spring back in next. So spring goes into one side. I'm going to put the short side in because that seems to be the one that's a little bit more difficult to do. Set that into the hole. And now this one, the long tag end, generally I can use this pliers to kind of help me with that. If I was trying the other side, it just doesn't, I don't have enough room to grab. So bring the pliers up, pull that spring out, and then make sure that it latches into that little neck there. Okay. So when we go to set this bail now, it's going to come all the way over here and set in like that, right? And then when it comes underneath, it's going to hit on the ramp of this case, and it should flip it back. Whoa, that's a mousetrap. All right, let's take the bail and put that back on. So this is just a fixed anchor point here. You don't need to do anything with that side. This is where it does attach in. We'll just bring the nut back on. So I think we're going to be in good condition here. The bell hangs low. So it appears that this has probably been bent a little bit out of shape. And I always recommend if you want to do this, grab the bail wire like this with the pliers and then push your bail back. It is a wire, probably got bent because it got slammed into a wall somewhere. And that's better. That's a better lie to that. All right, well, this has been a little disjointed here, but the whole idea was, why is this wheel failing? First thing we did was we looked underneath, found out that's perfectly fine there. Then we looked up top and we found out that, well, that whole bail system there has been compromised. Took it apart, reset the spring, Do a little bit of cleaning here, a little more cleaning to go, some dirt here. Now we can bring our rotor on. There's a little stud here that's going to hold this lock down. So you want to make sure that you get that lockdown on that stud. You can bring this on. I did find the handle. I did find the handle and put it on when I went to search for a wrench for that bell nut there. That's why the handle is mysteriously on the reel right now, for those of you that have been paying attention. Haven't been able to crank it down though, because, well, you haven't had this pinion gear tightened in. Okay, right now we're tightened in. Bring our side plate back on. 3 screws, kind of where we started from. So these reels are the proverbial built like tanks. They are very well made. They're simple. I give them a lot of props for being a simple reel. There are no bearings in here to rust. They're all bushings. And overall, this reel will last a very long time. These are steel screws and not stainless, but this reel probably was used in fresh water, not salt water. And I think the evidence of that dirt that we saw under the rotor there says that, well, maybe it's been an issue where it fell. The bend in the bail could be an issue for that as well. But right now, I think we're going to solve that question there. Is it an internal problem? And I think it's a problem, but it was a problem in the rotor side, not inside the reel. We'll take a moment here to use a rod and reel cleaner, just to clean that up a little bit. 2 more pieces here. We have the click ratchet, which is going to let us know when the drag is letting line out. The noisemaker on that is under the spool here. It's this little piece attached with the spring. Then we have the spool height adjuster washer. So we can put that back on. Now this, unlike the some of the rear drag wheels, this is not a button to release the spool. It's just a cosmetic kind of eye in the center there. All right, let's see if it rocks and rolls. Okay, let's review. So what did we do? We did a couple of things. We went with the initial thought that it was an internal problem by opening up the case, moving these screws, finding out that, well, it wasn't an issue with the case, although there was some dirt and debris inside there. That certainly wasn't stopping the reel. So then we paid our attention to the rotor, and we saw that this trip lever was jammed underneath the bail arm here, so certainly couldn't fire. And I think causing that jam when it got over to the ramp over here, that's the trip ramp, well, it couldn't move. It couldn't bring it in and out or fire. We then showed you how to take this apart, set the bail spring, reset that trip lever, and well, we bent the reel bail a little bit to get it out of the way for some clearance. And maybe the thought here, how it failed, it might have been that this bail wire or the reel itself was dropped. When it dropped, put force on this arm, trapped that lever underneath, and, well, stopped working. So if reels could talk. All right, well, let's give it a try. Oh, look at that. Bobby, you got a reel that works again. Kind of interesting. Let's make sure the bail works. And one of the things that's interesting about this bail is it does have a collapsible bail. So if you do pull this back, you can move that wire down and out of the way so that when you're storing it, it doesn't get injured by, well, being in that set position there. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. It's always fun to take a look at a fishing reel and why that reel fails and learn from that in terms of, well, just institutional knowledge that one day may help you with a different type of a reel. I hope you've enjoyed that. I want to take a moment to thank our public safety folks, our first responders, police, fire, safety, rescue, the first responders, everybody who's dedicated to keeping us out of harm's way. I want to thank you, the viewer, for watching, for commenting, for making this channel what it is, and, well, just keeping it vibrant. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.